Welcome to Noir Alley. This week, I am skipping outside the prescribed boundaries of film noir to pay tribute to one of the most influential American writers of the 20th century. October 4th is the birthday of Damon Runyon, a spinner of yarns, factual and fictional, including the one coming up. From RKO Radio Pictures in 1942, it is The Big Street, with Henry Fonda, Lucille Ball, and a supporting cast that can only be called Runyon-esque. This Alfred Damon Runyon character is born in 1880 in Manhattan, Kansas, but he spends most of his youth in Pueblo, Colorado, where he drops out of school after the 4th grade to work alongside his father at the local newspaper. While he is still a teenager, Runyon serves in the Spanish-American War, after which he makes his way to the Big Apple, becoming a big-shot sports writer for William Randolph Hearst's New York American. Baseball, boxing, and horse racing are his sports of choice, along with the gambling that accompanies them. Runyon's distinctive prose, which features liberal doses of wit, slang, and sentimentality, are so popular the sports section can hold him no longer. He covers major news events, political races, and court trials of the most sensational variety, spiking all with a unique manner of speech that becomes known as Runyonese. During the 20s and 30s, with his columns and articles syndicating in papers all around the country, Runyon is the most distinctive voice in American journalism. As if this is not enough, he is also a masterful short story writer, turning the ramble of Midtown Manhattan and the lives of its guys and dolls into his personal playground. His tales capture the brash and exciting collision of big city nightlife with the criminal underworld, reveling in a lively strata of so-called operators that exist between the two. During Prohibition, while much of the press is terrifying the public with tales of renegade outlaws run amok, Runyon is spinning stories of gangsters, gamblers, and hard-luck hustlers who are comical, resourceful, and at times mawkishly sentimental. From all this verbiage emerges a new American archetype. And although Mr. Runyon could not quite claim a patent on it, nobody ever did it better. Now, here is where the noir comes in. Runyonese is suddenly so popular during the early 30s, its influence seeps into hard-boiled pulp fiction. Crooks are just not believable if they do not spout all the latest lingo. By the time the noir movement gets underway in Hollywood, Runyonese is an established aspect of American speech. Most fans may recognize noir by its shadowy atmosphere, but the value of vernacular speech to its everlasting appeal cannot be overstated. In truth, language is the most distinctively American element in these films, and no writer is more influential in creating and popularizing this new language than Damon Runyon. Some of you will need a translator for much of the dialogue in today's film, and if you are watching with closed captions, they will not do you good of any kind. I defy this so-called artificial intelligence to coherently transcribe Runyonese. When Lucille Ball is making this picture, she is still years away from becoming the queen of TV comedy. In fact, RKO is not sure what to do with a funny woman who is also, to use an apt descriptor, quite the dish. In this early starring role, she not only displays a deft way with a wisecrack, she plays a dame as selfish and cold-hearted as any femme fatale. Henry Fonda is Little Pinks, the man puppy hopelessly in her thrall. The Greek chorus to their lopsided love story includes Ray Collins, Barton McLean, Eugene Pallette, Agnes Moorehead, and Sam Levine, who herewith is basically creating the character of Nathan Detroit, which in 8 years' time he will make famous in Guys and Dolls, the Broadway musical based on an assortment of Damon Runyon stories. Adapted by Leonard Spiegelgas and directed by Irving Reese, here is one of only 3 movies produced by the man himself, Damon Runyon's The Big Street. The ending of this movie is without doubt one of the weirdest I have seen. To boot, it is nothing like the end of the Damon Runyon story on which it is based. Let me quote said story. So I go up to the side of her chair, only figuring that the chances are she wishes to get me close enough to give me a belt with her cane for something I forgot to remember, and she says, "Kneel down, little pinks." Well, of course, this is an unusual request, but if there is one thing I am accustomed to from your highness, it is unusual requests. So I kneel down in front of her chair, and she reaches out with her cane, but instead of belting me, she taps me on the shoulder with it and says, "Rise up, little pinks, my brave and true knight. Rise up, and may God bless you forever and always." Her Highness then grants little pinks the first and only kiss they ever share. She says, "I love you, little pinks," and then breathes her last. There is no dying on her feet. There is no being carried up the stairway for a last look at the sunset. Only Hollywood could out-schmaltz Damon Runyon. For the record, the short story has a brief epilogue in which Little Pinks sneaks into the room of gangster Case Abels, ties him to the bed, and fractures his spine with a baseball bat. This is something upon which I suspect the production code would not have looked with favor. Well, as you may have figured out by now, my comments are being related in a diluted form of Runyonese, the unique style that makes his work so unique. All of Damon Runyon's stories are told in the historical present tense, a device that gives everything, even flashbacks, a sense of immediacy. And Runyon never allowed his characters to use contractions in their dialogue. No one said, "I can't wait to get a drink." For a Runyon character, the procuring of a libation is a matter of the utmost urgency. This gives his lowlifes a kind of high-toned, street-smart nobility that is irresistible to readers. Damon Runyon describes Little Pinks in these few words: a busboy in the Canary Club who has a very large nose and a short forehead and who does not weigh more than 90 pounds, apron and all. Casting Elijah Cook Jr. or Percy Hilton might have made Little Pinks's slavish devotion to Her Highness somewhat more believable. My father, of whom I speak on occasion, was San Francisco's version of Damon Runyon, although his beat was limited to professional prize fighting. Every so often he would write a fanciful column about the exploits of a pair of bumbling boxing promoters named Heavy Nose and Benny Forgets. When I asked if these guys were based on real people, he laughed and said, "Nah, I'm just doing a Damon Runyon." And by way of explanation, he handed me his collection of Damon Runyon favorites, which I still have to this day. 16 of Runyon's stories have been made into movies, including Lady for a Day, Little Miss Marker, and Pocketful of Miracles. Although he gave up drinking early in his career, Runyon powered through life fueled by endless cups of coffee, each one accompanied by a cigarette. The operation for throat cancer in 1944 left him unable to speak, but since he was a writer, that did not slow him down. The dead stop came suddenly on December 10th, 1946. Not long after, Runyon's pal, famed aviator Eddie Rickenbacker, flew a DC-3 over Midtown Manhattan and scattered the writer's ashes over the streets he had immortalized. That such a stunt was illegal made it all the more Runyon-esque. Well, that will do it. I hope all you Jakes and Judys will join me back at Bar 355 next week for a gangster saga from the mid-50s starring Richard Conte, Anne Bancroft, and Broderick Crawford. New York Confidential. Until then, see you in the shadows.
Next on TCM, Crooks and Coronets, then Inside Out, and later, The Cosmic Monster. TCM is out of this world tonight.